what are the pieces of advice that you want to share with the listeners, especially after you've heard and interviewed all these people, these great people that are doing great things? If you could summarize it in the top 2 or 3 things, each of you, what would they be? Why don't we start with you, Evan?
I got very simple advice. Very simple advice. If you're not involved in the community, go and get involved now. If you're not taking care of relationships, do it. And spend more time with your family.
Kari?
And your health.
Just find confidence in yourself. A lot of people, we bring up the inferiority complex a lot about people in Hawaii, but they have kind of this internal confidence. Just go ahead and try and fake and exude that confidence, because you'll learn it'll end up being natural. Like, for example, when we first started the show, I talked about, the confidence, and for me, it was a little lack of confidence, but I tried to just exude it even though I didn't have it. And as I mentioned earlier, Christine said, you just have to have it, and people will follow and listen. And through the year, with that message in my mind, she was right. And that was really neat. So just for people to find the confidence and just try and exude as much as you can in any type of setting. The other is find out what your passion is and do it. And the last one is the same thing in regards to community. One thing that we've brought up in the past few days is that everyone wants to get involved in the community, but they don't necessarily do it. Businesses want to somehow partner with nonprofit organizations, but they don't know how to do it. So if you're a business owner, start trying to figure out who you can build a relationship with, who you can partner with to give back to the community, because there's so many opportunities out there. For the nonprofit organizations, one thing that's like a really key message is make your needs known, because a lot of businesses as well as people in the community don't know what is needed. They just know they're there. What do you need? Make a list, broadcast it, share it so people know, and you can get the help and the involvement that is necessary.
Okay. I wanted to ask you guys, similar to when you're in school, report card time. So this is our report card time. I want you to each grade yourself, your own personal development and the progress of greater good. So Evan, why don't we start with that? Grade yourself. Where do you stand personally, on your own?
Compared to what, though?
Where you were. Where you used to be. The guy that you used to be.
A.
All right, where does this, where...
That's an A. I get an A. Thank you. Anytime the teacher gives you an opportunity, give yourself a grade, give yourself an A.
So the rest of these questions are probably senseless in it.
I'm going to give myself an A.
So, I think the big question is, when you started this greater good concept to where you are today, fairly rank yourself. Where do you stand today?
On a scale of 1 to 10, or what?
Sure, whatever. 1 to 10 is fine, yes. 10 being the highest.
I would say it's somewhere probably 8 or 9. And the only reason I'm going to say that is because the revenue is not at the level it needs to be at. Everything else is.
If I was grading the company and its growth in its, in this year or whatever, I would give it a 10. And the reason I would do so is because, Evan leads the company and a lot of our companies in regards to its vision and where it wants to be. And, he asked me recently, I don't know, in the past couple of weeks, he was like, are you surprised how big we are? Did you think it was ever going to be this big? Because, someone just asked him that. I said, yeah. He goes, really? He was surprised. And I said, honey, why are you so surprised? I said, you don't remember talking about all these things? I mean, this was totally planned. Whether he truly believed and I truly believed it could get big this fast, I don't know if we really believed it was going to get big this fast, but it was always his vision. And he has a lot more plans of where he wants to take it. So I would grade him. No, I'm just kidding. But our company in general, a 10. I can't necessarily say grade him, but he has a great vision, and he also manages our employees that allow us to grow. And
on a scale of A through F, then where would you rate yourself?
In
your
development,
yes.
Well, Evan is my mentor, and he said whenever you're given the opportunity, you give yourself an A. It's always a work in progress.
Someone's listening.
Yeah. Wasn't that a piece of your advice earlier?
Right.
But I think that for both of us, it's always a work in progress. It's hard to grade yourself because it seems like it's an end grade. But I think that I've seen a lot of growth in him and development, and I think he can say the same for me. And I mean, that's pretty much what's been the most enjoyable thing. As business partners, as lifelong partners as well as mother and father and everything we do together.
Well, I think it's only
Let's
fair.
say an A.
Evan, is that what grading?
I'd give her an A.
Okay, well then. Well, last question for you
You
guys.
think I'm going to give her any lower grade than that, Darren? Come on now.
So, Evan, let me ask you a question. Back when you had the idea of doing greater good, you went around the community and you pitched your idea to a lot of people. And I think initially you got a lot of rejection, or a lot of.
You mean to come on the show or what?
No, to do the show, to actually put it on the air. You were taking a look at some different venues. You were taking a look at different options. And I think the one thing that I admired the most about that experience was that you're very, very determined to get it on a very prominent network station. And you did it. Because I recall when you were trying to do it, you were pitching it and you were asking for a lot of input. You know, a lot of people said, yeah, I'm not sure if you're going to be able to pull this off. And this wasn't
nobody
very
thought we
long
could pull it
ago.
off, right? Nobody
Right.
thinks.
And now
We're
you
wondering
did.
whether we could pull it off.
So kind of walk us through that experience. Because I think hearing from an entrepreneur standpoint, hearing some of the failures or some of the struggles is as important as hearing the successes.
So it's kind of funny how people pigeonhole you depending on what you're doing.
Did you get down, or did you guys, both of you, get your spirits kind of broken because of some of the initial pushback?
Not really.
You just.
I might got pissed a little bit, but I don't think I got down.
And I think
So-
both of us have pretty thick skin. I mean, since we've pretty much been working together and we have so much faith in each other, knowing what our skills and abilities and talents are, we hardly ever get down on rejection. And if Evan gets down, I'll pick
We'll
him
get
up.
mad.
If I get down, he picks me up. And we figure out a plan. We figure out a solution. We don't just sit there and complain about how bad it is. But we figure out a plan of how to actually make this work. Because you know what? There's an opportunity out there somewhere. It's just a matter of us finding it. And we're so determined that we never give up.
Well, plus you figure if someone else can do it, you can do it, right? I mean, it's harder. Granted, it is harder, and yes, we could be more polished and so on. But I mean, someone else can do it. I can do it.
But from all the feedback too that we get in regards to being more polished or being better or making my voice lower or whichever, looking better, we
Looking
work
better
on
is out
it.
of the question for me.
We work on it. We welcome the feedback and we just try and work and develop as a person and what we do. And it may be a slow progress, but just as long as you're getting better, I mean, you can't get any worse.
It's funny because when you have a clear understanding of what you're doing and what you can do and what you're trying to do, and other people are telling you otherwise, if your foundation is pretty set, then it doesn't really matter, right? You go out and people tell you you're crazy or whatever. It's like, whatever. And you know what? After a while, you just prove it, and then nobody says anything anymore.
'Cause
This is
it's
interesting
getting deeper and deeper
because I
and
keep
deeper.
forgetting.
Yeah.
I forget, and I forget that we've only been doing this thing for 2 years or less than 2 years. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah.
Because it seems like
I know
it's
what you
been a long time. Because when you look at it from the outside too, it's like, wow, this thing has been around for a while,
Yeah.
but it hasn't.
A couple of years ago, you went to a talk here in town where one of the speakers had said, in order for you to really gain knowledge, you have to leave Hawaii.
No, he said to make it, you got to leave, right?
Right.
Right. Weren't you at the same one?
Yeah, and that's why I was asking you about that. So I wanted, and at the time, you were very upset about that comment, and you
I don't know
didn't.
if I was so upset.
Well,
I think
you
it's
didn't
just
agree
that,
with
okay,
it.
I was upset because here's the thing: if you looked at the crowd that he was talking to, the crowd interpreted it differently than I think he was mentioning it. I understand his point, and his point was, if you're going to build a Google-sized company or so on, this is probably not the area that it's going to come out of. If you look at the public companies that come out of here, they typically have to move out in order to ramp up and scale and so on. That's what I think he was saying. But the way that people were taking it was, well, in order for them to make it anywhere in their life, they got to leave. I don't necessarily think that's true.
And is that what the goal of your book and your show, this show is trying to do, is to
Kinda.
enlighten people? Yeah.
Yeah, I think so, right?
Yeah.
That's why we highlight Hawaii people. It's for Hawaii people. I mean, if other people like it, great. Listen, pay attention. But, this is really about highlighting Hawaii values and so on. So that if we go a little bit farther back and you asked, what are you looking at the next 10 years? And I said, I'm looking at maybe putting together some leadership or that type of focused, personal growth focused books. That is where it would be based upon, would be Hawaiian and Hawaii-based values and, culture and so on in a story format to teach that type of thing to other areas. Because anyone who's pretty decent in Hawaii can pretty much go anywhere and get along, get things done, and so on. But it's not the same vice versa.
Changing subjects, Kari, I wanted to ask you, how much more bandwidth do you think you have as a person? I mean, you have a lot of stuff going on. You're teacher, bubble tea, editor, makeup artist for the show, kids too, and you're talking possibly about another one at some point in the future. I mean, where does the bandwidth, where do you run out of bandwidth?
I'm pretty much run out of bandwidth in regards to, God, I noticed that I just don't have a memory, which is really bad. But that's why I said that my goal in the next 10 years is to start passing it off, because I have to be able to trust that other people can do it and be able to start using my talents elsewhere.
Yeah, and that's good. Definitely, I know family is a big part of your lives for both of you guys. How much time do you spend on family now, a week?
I do actually spend quite a bit of time on them, because once I pick them up, I'm 100% dedicated to them. Unless there's an emergency or something that has to be done urgently. But I mean, I can't even put it to hours, because there is no average. Sometimes I can pick them up right after they nap. Sometimes I have to, have a long work day. So
I remember last year you said that there was like 1 hour a day you would spend on you, right? That was the Kari time.
I had to change that to much earlier. So yeah, it's still an hour a day, and that's like much earlier in the morning. But I've found that I've been able to be a lot more productive in the afternoon. So instead of exercising in the afternoon, I exercise really early in the morning.
What are the common characteristics that you hear all of the interviewees say? When you ask them, how did you become successful? What was your path to success? What are the things that they almost always say?
Oh, I got a good answer on that, Darren. You need to buy the book.
It's not available yet. So for those who are waiting,
you gotta wait.
Just gotta wait.
Yeah, you gotta wait.
Well, that's it. This is Darren Kimura, your special guest host. Thank you for joining us today on Greater Good Radio. For more information or a transcript of today's show, please visit us online at greatergoodradio.com. Please join us again for another episode of Greater Good Radio.